Okay, okay. So with Raz, with having Earth Seeds and the product, he's probably the only person that I've seen who is from America, who's gone to Africa and has his product on Amazon and it looks good and it has good reviews. Because it's one thing to have a product, it's another thing to have a product with good reviews. But what I really want you to educate the audience, which I don't think now that I've seen Native Born and I've heard what you have done on the Advise show, I want to get into the nitty gritty of what are your thoughts of Black Americans coming to America and what type of attitude they need to come with. Because on this side, we're seeing everybody saying they want to go to Africa to visit. Some are saying they want to go move there. But me, having gone to South Africa, having gone to Cameroon, having gone to Ethiopia, and never as a tourist, right? Never as a missionary, never as in the military. I'm seeing that a lot of brothers are going to Africa, but they're not going with the right mind state. And I want to know if am I looking at it wrong, or do you see that as well? That folks are coming, but it's almost like they're going on safaris and they're looking at the people like animals and not their people. I don't know. Give me your take, brother.
Where we are concerned as a people, far removed from that, removal has caused a lot of regards to how we have become one with our person. What you're speaking of in terms of our mind state when we come here, it's almost impossible to come here in the right mind because I can't honestly say that I had the right mind when I came here. When I look back, because I've been here long enough to have a little track, when I look back, I realized that in so many ways, I was so off the edge. I was so off the kilter. I was so far from, you know, from even a basic ground. I was very much that American youth most of us are when we come here. We've been conditioned. We've been programmed away, and it's almost amazing that we could think outside of that programming to actually come. So while what you're saying is true, a lot of us are kind of helter skelter when we get here. I realize that it's real hard to come given what we've been conditioned to, how we've been degrees of that with.
Okay, and you have a knowledge that many of people, a lot of us have the knowledge that you have in tuned. You're first of all, you're out of Babylon, so you've been able to think, you've been able to
Exactly.
enjoy, and what I would almost challenge someone like you who's been able to experience that is I'm gonna pressure you on the book because how to come to Africa, I haven't seen it. Right? I haven't seen anybody do that, but how to kind of decompress, even to get off the food. I've seen Americans, and not even just Americans, I've seen people from the Caribbean go to Europe and say the first thing they want is McDonald's because they've lived in America for so long, right?
Right.
And so is there any points or any steps you can help the audience say the first thing you could do, not need to, because everybody's needs are different, but the first thing you can do to come with a deeper understanding is 1, 2, and 3. Is there any tips that you can give on that?
Like you said, it's really personal.
Mm-hmm.
But I would start with, and it's real hard because honestly, um, you know, I would start with humility. I would
Mm.
start with training one's mind to be a little bit more humble than we are, and I don't mean humility in the sense of, one of the things that I've found with being here is, regal. I could be who I am. I don't have to tone that down. There's another version of our ego that is really, if we can tone that down, if we can quiet that storm a little bit, um, you'll be able to see things a lot more clearly and be a lot less judgmental and American basically. We gotta realize one of the things that people will get put off with when they come is this notion of people, brothers and sisters on the ground calling them a bruni, basically calling them a white man.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I had to deal with. Not much, but I had to deal with it because what they were saying was not that you look like a white man. What they were saying is you act like a white man. You walk like a white man. You do everything like they do.
Yeah.
What's the difference? And I'm just citing that without prejudice. That's a fact for most of us. So I guess wanting not to be that and realizing how far disconnected we are will make us humble, make us come back with a little bit of a little reserve, reserve.
Okay. Okay. And the mentality, that's the part that most people, until you go travel somewhere else, you never know how American you are. Now that you've been there for over a decade, over 2 decades, if I'm not correct?
We're just about 20 years now.
20 years. Now, do you see yourself still having those American ways?
My brother, the programming is deep. You
Mm.
get me?
Mm-hmm.
And the programming is deep. I definitely have them. Definitely still have them. But I would say that some of what I have, that which I choose to keep.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our baggage we hold on to it for whatever reason. So I definitely still have them. I'm still disjointed. I'm far along, on my little path.
Okay, and let me push that issue a little more because you're originally from New York, and so we know Black Americans, and this is a generalization, and I don't mind generalizing just based on what I'm about to say because of the way that I came up. I'm from the Bay Area, Oakland, California, right? In a minute, in a heartbeat, we can get down. So if you have a problem with what I have to say, we can finish it right then and there and been trained real well. I say by the best. But when you go over to the continent, nobody's ready to fight like that. If anything, the neighbors will break up a fight and no one, but here we've been trained. It's a survival tactic to if you want to go, when where the highway the church even I've seen fights, I've seen old ladies fight in the church and double team people. What part of the American side are you holding on and why is it?
I haven't given that much thought. I haven't given that much thought. Okay, I'll tell you for one. This is a criticism of my person, and it's something I suggest those who come after me try not to do. I made no real attempt to learn the language. That's some arrogant American shit.
Yeah, that's American for real.
I'm in Ghana where the majority of people will acclimate. I've never had a language barrier, really. I'm married to a Ghanaian. I really don't have that barrier. My children. So again, I feel like I have. But again, that is one example of me holding on to something I should have, if not done away with, I should have at least embraced the mother tongue. One of them, anyway.
Yes, yes, yeah. I appreciate you sharing that because that's a real American. Because like when we were in Ethiopia and we met with Teddy, a Rastafarian, he was in the local languages. He could go back and forth, but him being a citizen of the world, which many Rastas, when they go somewhere, they learn.
Exactly.
Because you have to business wise, but that you haven't had to. Yeah, that's a deep one. That's a deep one, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And so do you find that you didn't want to learn the language just because languages aren't your thing, or the other side of the question is, has business at all been affected? Because if you could know what someone else was talking, when you're haggling in the supermarket, not the supermarket, but the market, whatnot. That's how
Right.
American I am. I can't get out of the supermarket now that I'm back, right? But when you're haggling at the market, where they could tell you something behind your back, do you think it's impacted you in that way at all?
No, not in that way, really, because people do business. I realize people do business all over the world in places where they don't speak languages, and we kind of depend, especially with business, more on body language and eye contact and things like that. Now people get over. As much as people get over, I get over. And when I say that, I mean as much as people might take my differences and wish to get over, very often, and I say that because I'm a little seasoned. And I can read. I might not be able to hear the actual tongue, but I can read. I can see things plain. So um, it doesn't happen quite so often. But even when it does, it's a minor tax, really a minor tax, because you know there are some things that all of us, some degree of privilege, and that same thing can sometimes be a liability. It usually it weighs itself out. I haven't had it be disadvantageous for business or much of anything. And like really and truly, if like I said, so if I got to get on the phone with somebody in the village who knows, because the phones can be a little difficult, and they really can't hear my accent, and I can't hear theirs, then I just pass the phone.
Okay. Okay. One thing I try to do in every country is at least try to get the basics, because I always want you to think I'm supposed to be there and I don't want the
Right.
tax no matter where it is, right? So I'm not an expert at all in languages, but I try to do that just so. I remember being in South Africa and the guy, he said, "Oh, you're an American." We started talking enough. He's like, "You're an American," but my first greeting is always going to be Sabona, in the region that I was at. So I can take the bus, the combi bus, for very cheap. And my French is terrible, but at least, and my father-in-law who's by me, he can attest that, if I'm in Simeon, I can at least get the basics of taxi to get downtown. But that's me, and that's my comfort level, because without that, I feel uncomfortable. The same way if I was in Mexico. I want you to believe I'm supposed to be here in Mexico. But you know where I learned that? I learned that in Germany, because when you're in Germany, and again, I was never in the military. I like to make that very clear for people, that when you don't speak the language, like I was in Cologne, they look at you like Americans look at you. And I didn't like
Right.
that look, because the
Right.
way Americans treat people when they don't speak English is terrible. So, that just when this was over a decade, I just never wanted that look. But back to being in Ghana and you starting your business. Now you are married to a woman from Ghana. So it may be a little different for you, but for those brothers who aren't married, I want to really see a step by step plan on how to do business in every African country, because there's no jobs waiting for us, for 9 out of 10 of us, right? There's no job. You got to create a job. You mentioned that in your Native Born interview, and many others have mentioned it. And go see that interview with this brother, because he's giving some tips. I'm not even going to get on because he hit them so well. But to get a business in Ghana now, how easy is it to get a bank account, and how much will it cost somebody?
This is the part in that video when I read the responses. I realized caused the most dismay. It was a bit discouraging for those who heard. So I will preface the information. There are many people on the ground who entered just as who entered America. Any number of things to maintain their status for however long it took. It's a process, when you enter a country, there will always be some degree of barriers. Now, as I mentioned earlier, as I mentioned in the previous video, and I'll get into it clearly here, increased our barriers. They've made it a little bit harder, a lot harder, actually, business legally in the state of Ghana. I'll go into all of that. But I emphasize that there are other ways being in Ghana, having legal residency, figuring it out without paying. But for the record, we're going to deal with the requirements that they have set forth. As a citizen of any other country, as a foreigner, you're required to come in with in that size of an investment. Be in a partnership, the Ghanaian would have to have roughly 10% of your business, meaning they would have to come up with or be able. You should partner wisely. But it's very hard, when you're just landing to actually find back somebody who want to do business with on that level. You just can't know people unless you've had some experience. But yes, it requires. They have an amount, which is 250,000 to legally start a business. Now, an alternative that I did mention on that video, to set up an NGO, non-governmental organization, is like a non-profit over there, and there are some requirements. NGOs are sponsored by mother companies in the land from where you came. So if you plan on going that route, there are no There are no financial requirements as such. Simply be wise that you set up an appropriate mother company.
Okay, okay. And something happened with the volume. You went real low, but we're gonna keep going and hope all is well. If not, I'll tweak something because once you start talking about money on these things, the systems, the the powers that be don't what they're talking about money and how to set things up in Africa. Let me ask you that quarter of a million that you need to start. What if could you open up as a foreigner? Could you open up a personal bank account?
That kind of money, then I mean, once okay, not should I say once you got that kind of money, once you go through those procedures, acquire residence, meaning once you in order to have a business, once you register your business, then you're entitled to an account. Once you are entitled right to open up an account via that channel, then you will have all the requirements. They have TIN numbers here. These are relevant because you are I was in entrapments that they are
Mm-hmm.
what they are get. You're not exactly. I diverted from the question.
Well, and I was asking about personal bank accounts because business is one thing, but I know that in many African countries, you can get a personal bank account. It may not have any interest, but you can, if you want to put your money somewhere just to kind of, store it somewhere else, you could do that. So do you know if that's an option just on a personal, not a business? I just want to have a bank account in Ghana.
What
Okay.
I know is, okay, you can get a personal bank account if you come and work for a company.
Mm-hmm.
Since we just hired a system, you will have residency, and through your residency permit, you can open it up. And that residency permit doesn't have to go to owning a business. You've taken a job here, it could be a dependent. There are several ways that you once you have a residency,
Mm-hmm.
then personal.
Okay. Now, forgive my next line of questioning, but I told you I'm from Okanda, 510 area code, so we're always looking for a way to beat the Monopoly game, right? So, and you mentioned hiring. What are the requirements of you hiring someone? Because we may get a flood of emails to you right now saying, "Can you hire me, today and let me start with that residency?" What type of requirements as an entrepreneur do they put on you, especially to hire a foreigner?
There are some requirements. I mean, it's relative to the size of your business. I think you're permitted, and I'm not 100% on this, but
Mm-hmm.
I think you're permitted. I would say no more than 20% statewide, but as a way to maneuver in Ghana, and that's the thing, and that's bear in mind. In Ghana, you only have to figure it out. You only have to figure it out. There will be some that will occur.
Okay. Oh,
So what you just said is that
yeah.
because that is one of the ways that
Okay. Yeah. Well, everybody, is at a different level. And I grew up at a time where if you weren't trying to beat the game, you'd be swallowed up by it. So, we always thinking on another level of overstanding. And so, what about minimum wage? Because is there a minimum wage out there?
the minimum wage was you don't want to hear it. It's
Well,
speaking of minimum wage.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not a livable wage, I'm sure. Unlike it's not a livable wage here in America. Subsidies make it where people can survive. But if you took certain programs out, there'd be a lot more hungry people. And we know we have a homeless problem everywhere in America. That Ghana, correct me if I'm wrong, like most of Africa, does not have. You're not going to see homeless skid rows in cities, especially the main cities. Here in Seattle that I'm in, there's over 12,000 under bridges. In LA, we know there's so many. So, are you
We
gonna?
do have home.
They
We
do.
definitely have.
Okay. Is it the same way that we have it, where folks are digging out of trash cans?
Well, food is a lot more abundant on the continent, so digging out of trash cans, you don't really see them starving like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, people come from various regions. They come from the north, come all the way. We're in the south for the. They come from the north, come all the way down to do business in the busy capital, get their little bread. But the cost of living in the capital is off the chain.
Yeah.
So a lot of them really squat for as long as they have to until they can, put together enough to, So yeah, we get our levels of poverty.
Okay. Well, the scriptures talk about the poor will always be amongst you. So I don't try to solve problems that that wisdom has already answered, and we can't solve everyone's problem. But I also think about if someone does say if they do flood the Earth Seed email because they say, wow, this brother's products are really on Amazon and he's selling with good reviews, maybe he can allow me to come out there and I'll work for a minimum wage and then I can just get my residency and then I can go do what I really want to do, because I see Babylon falling. I see it. It's gonna fall, and I don't plan to be here when it does at all. But I just want to encourage or let people know, inform them. Don't bother you, particularly saying hire me. I'll work pay or no pay because you have to pay them something, and we know if you don't come with a righteous mind, you're going to be a burden. And that's going to go to my next question of, you know, if you could if you could tell yourself 20 years ago, besides the language thing, what is one thing that you're going to leave in America and leave some of that Americanism, back in America? And tell me if you want more clarification on that. Just because I'm seeing people come to Africa, and some people are like, "Oh, we're gonna have maids," and I'm like, "Maids? What are those?" Because most Africans that I know call them house help, and that it's a family thing more than somebody serving you. So we have people wanting to come to Africa to be served. We have black people. I'm talking about black people coming and wanting basically the life that the colonizer had, and they want to live that and colonize their own people, which we know in 50 years, 100 years, if not before, because we can look at Liberia and say, wait, those people still have problems with the natives versus the foreigners. And it's been generations. So, what are some of the things you wish you could leave off? And do you see that being a problem in the near future, especially with what Ghana is doing right now in saying, hey, everybody return 2019?
Well, Ghana is doing what it did in 2007, I believe. They're doing a little campaign, and what it did in '96, because I rode the first wave. I don't even know if it was the first when Rawlins came in 2007, Kufuor president, and of his subordinates created a program that encouraged us to. And now, as the wave is becoming more popular, and Ghana is about their business.
Mm-hmm.
So that return, it is a welcome, and it is definitely want to see you. Nothing at immigrations has changed. However, I guess it's not fair not to state with everything else we said regarding the barriers. They are in the process creating a channel for us to come with some degree lesser challenges. They are beginning to this discourse, even though it is bottom line business course, is forcing their hands. As you may have heard, they gave 34 random repats. It's a precedent. It will demand, dictate that they have to follow up. As you've heard, they've spoken this year of return. You can't speak that without and still deny that we are returning. And you can't do that for a whole year and then say that you don't have a place for us at immigration.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a process, and it's unfolding. And the barriers that exist, I state them because myself, I didn't know they were there, and it was so detrimental to get here and find that out here. I felt like I would have been in a lot better position had I known the level of Babylon in this. I don't even want to say it because it's not really resistance from our people, but our people are not running things. They got our oppressors entrenched.
Mm-hmm.
So, so so that's why I mentioned some of these barriers. I would like the mind of one coming to be conditioned to deal with this level of, again, Babylon, not the resistance from the place as much, but Babylon in our system. You asked me what else I would have left behind. What I would have left behind, I would have never, if I had the choice, I would have never consumed it to begin with. Um, it's really just the culturalization that we are brought up on. I mean, what we what we consume on a daily basis over there is it's only bound to affect our psyche. And I wouldn't be me if I left anything. I can't really say. I mean, I can't really say, my brother. I can't really say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because being Rasta, there there's so many. We see the Biggie, we see the Tupac, and that's why I was kind of getting to being from New York and having that edge that every New Yorker and everybody that I know from California kind of has to have to be able to survive those type of cities. It's one thing not to consume McDonald's. Um, but you're Rasta, so you wouldn't. I don't know if you were Rasta when you came, but you weren't eating McDonald's probably as a Rasta.
Definitely wasn't eating. I don't eat McDonald's.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
yeah, but even the the music and culture, and I guess I'm asking these things because I look 7 steps ahead, and one thing that I don't want to see in Africa, just the same way if I'm in Mexico, I don't stay in resorts, or if I'm in Jamaica, I don't stay in resorts because when I go somewhere foreign, I don't want to see that American. It's that arrogance. So I don't want to see a bunch of Black Americans come to Africa and start saying, "Why is there no Churchy's chicken?" Or why is the power out? Well, there's a solution for that. Have a generator. Or why isn't my internet 5G? And even at Starbucks, it was so fast. In that complaining, because now you're coming over, and I just don't want to see that anywhere, but especially in Africa, because I'm gonna be the first one to say we're not in America. Hold on, where's the tire? Somebody get the tire. We need to cut this cancer out before it gets contagious. You understand what I'm saying when I say where's the tire? We don't, this is YouTube, so we're gonna keep it keep it PC. But but that's what I'm my fear is, because we don't need that in Africa. We need a folks who are coming with
But
that.
you know what?
Huh.
You know what? I'm sorry to cut you, but I do it intentionally.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of different types.
Uh-huh.
I've found that you need a little bit of every.
Mm.
There are those that will never accustom myself to, and they probably need not have different roles. I really don't like politicking. I really don't like dealing with courts and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's part of the process. You have people who are on the front line on a regular basis, taking our case to government, to the parliament, making them. I could never do that.
Mm-hmm.
And those same people might very well be similar to some of the people that you mentioned. They might have some of those characteristics. But I found that everybody is having a purpose. From that to the brother who's straight hustling and knows how to get it. We need them all.
Mm-hmm.
We need them all, as long as they want to be here. Every contribution which is sincere will go a great way to the restoration of our motherland. So and that's the game plan. That's the win.
Yeah. So you said you don't like the politicking, and I understand. No place is perfect. There's not a place in this world that's nirvana. If you want that, you should die. And maybe you'll get it. So I understand that. I just that's my I haven't seen it in Africa myself. I've seen it in other countries, and it's always Americans complaining, right? White, black, and in between. So it's more of an American thing. But I understand what you mean. We all do have a purpose. There's just certain people. I say at least around me. Please, please, when we come and we're coming to trying to clear our mind, because for folks who haven't been to Africa, it's going to be a mind cleanse. You're going to say, wow, I don't mind dealing with slower internet, if no internet, because the internet is the people. The people are the offering, are the blessing. And so, you don't get that here.
Can I address something else you mentioned? And
Yes, please.
I really want to stress this. Yeah, you mentioned something about us coming and having maids or wanting maids. I will admit to some extent that was a mistake I made. A mistake only in that I thought that just by my moving from where I was with what little capital I had, and the fact that that little capital did mean a significant upgrade in, I don't know,
in your lifestyle.
in my ranking, in my ranking amongst my peers. You
Mm.
know, my little U.S. dollars meant I was a lot better off than the majority of people in my immediate ranking.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like it had entitled me, and I chose to aspire it, not on the grounds of anything other than, like I said, I had this slight edge. So I say it was a mistake on that ground because I hadn't figured out at that time how to maintain that capital or how to regain that capital. I had just figured out how to get it from one place to another. So it didn't really entitle me, and I soon found out that I couldn't sustain the lifestyle that I thought, worthy of at that time. However, having been through that cycle, I have remade myself. I do have help. I do have house help, as you say. I don't do my plumbing. I don't do my carpentry. I don't do my painting. And these are all things that I did on that side. Do these things unless you had to do most of what you've done yourself over there. Over here, you can employ someone for a fraction of what your time is worth. To have my wife scrubbing clothes, for me to do menial things that I no longer have to do.
Yeah.
Not on account of any advantage. I've figured out how to get myself in a position where I can comfortably employ, and I do.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong, nothing wrong with that. I had mentioned to a YouTuber who was putting the camera in the house help's face, calling them maids and saying they'll cook anything that you want. And here's the driver, and he'll drive us anywhere. And I'm like, these are people's jobs. I said the maid might sleep with you too, but that's the same thing in America that somebody would if you pay them enough, right? But it's your purpose of like that was so new to him, and it was like to me it was like this is why they hate us, or this is why they talk about us, you know. And so I just want to make it clear without saying names, but again, that Oakland in me and me having the relationship I have with that person I'm talking about, it wouldn't matter one bit. The relationship is still the same because I told him directly as soon as I saw it that I don't like that, and the people aren't going to like that, because you got to treat at any time in life things can switch where you go from being the one paying to being the one paid, and people,
Exactly.
you keep living and you'll see what I'm talking about. For folks who say I'm balling right now, I got a chain on, is oyster this and that, life can flip at any time. And so yeah, so I just, I'd like to throw that out there just because I don't want people coming to Africa just because you think you're gonna have a whole bunch of people working for you. They should,
Right.
in life, everybody should be working with you. In that, whatever religion you are, I could pull it out of a scripture and say, but look at the least of these being appreciated. Oh, so no, that's just where I'm at. But you look like you are living the good life, comfortable. You got real wood back there. We don't have real wood in America in some places. Every they trick you into saying, "Oh, this door will is climate control and this and that," and that's a plastic door that they got from IKEA and resold to you for 5 times the price. But let me ask you this. And then I always will save stuff for others because I do want Dr. Mumbai to talk to you as well, and she's going to do that when she comes to America, because so her internet connection will be as strong as possible. Um, but when you did your Amazon, putting your stuff on Amazon, did you have to have a Western partner, or did Amazon allow you from Ghana with your Ghana address and everything place things online?
That's an interesting question. The truth of the matter is, I tried to get on Amazon. I tried, no success. It was really difficult.
Mm.
Amazon, though, Amazon is, they know they are it.
Mm-hmm.
Their barriers are a little bit, if they're going to be difficult, they're going to be more difficult with any foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it really wasn't a pleasant. However, a brother came to Ghana and saw my products in one of the. This is a brother. This is okay. It's a Ghanaian brother, but it's a brother that I would probably never otherwise really have much. It's an Ivy League brother who just came back. Anyway, long story short, He said, I can get your things on Amazon. Okay, well, I tried and blah, blah, blah. And he said, no, I think I can get them on. So he got them on. Now, once he did that, he created a demand.
Mm-hmm.
And Amazon, once they saw that demand, they decided to,
Oh.
yeah. So that's how it worked out. They got in touch with us only after we were actually put on to a link that was already established in the States.
Okay. And that's a very important thing because I've been doing this for over a decade, and it started for me noticing with Yahoo, not even seeing Africa on the map at one point. There was no little red pin. This is back when you could have like AOL CDs, whatnot. You might be too young to remember that, but Google and everybody has been guilty, and even PayPal is still guilty, not allowing certain African countries to be able to give and receive money. So once they saw that you could make them some money, they reached out to you. Have they gone as far as putting a fulfillment center in Ghana? Or are you still having to ship things to the U.S.? You still there? Oh man, I think it cut. All right, let me try.